Bitcoin set to rally all the way up above $200,000, but we're seeing a little bit of a dip right now. Some questions about the US-China trade war. Was a deal struck? What is going on? Because we see altcoins seeing some major gains to the upside. The meme coins also taking a bit of a rally. We got to look at some absolutely key metrics on these charts because the Bitcoin market, the altcoin market, the stock market, all showing incredible signs of a major rally about to just explode higher. But do we need to watch for a little bit of lower price action before that happens? Everybody get involved in the live chat. I want to see you get active. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. Also, let me know in the live chat, where do you think price is going to be at the end of May? Let me know right now. Let's see what you guys have got to say here, whether you're watching on YouTube, Rumble, or Twitter. I appreciate you being here. Big love to each and every one of you. Let's talk about what's going on in this market. It's time to get things going. Let's roll. The Bitcoin and crypto market is seeing incredible signs of life, major gains in the altcoins that we've seen over the last few days. And a question about the US-China trade deal. Was a deal struck? Is there some still confusion about that? Is it just on a 90-day term? What's going on with these markets? Because I think we're seeing major signals. We're going to see a much larger upside come here. Basically, it's underway right now, but what levels do we need to pay attention to? Because I do think a small dip could be in store and it'd be perfectly in line with what we've been expecting. And that's okay. This might be a slingshot dip buying setup. So let's go. I see Daniel Caprood's in here. We got Bill Brower. We got One House Productions, FFIG, and a number of other people that are tuned in from YouTube, from Twitter, from Rumble. Shout out to each and every one of you. But when we're looking at this chart, this is what we're seeing. Very important level to watch, $110,000. As I've outlined over the streams of the last week, the mega pump gateway. I do think once we break through this, we are going to see massive impact from mainstream news media, basically giving free press to Bitcoin and the alt market, because we're seeing major signs also with the alts, especially with the Bitcoin dominance breaking down. But it's at a very key level right now. If this does bounce here, we're not going to get the continuation with alts. If this does break and continue to the downside, we're going to see a massive rally. So let's get into it, everybody. We got Kevin Svensson and Matthew Hyland going to be coming on the show here just a little bit, but we got some key things that we have to look at before we get into that. First up, let's look at the Bitcoin crypto bubbles, because we're seeing some major moves. The meme coins are absolutely running away. Are we about to get a meme coin super cycle? Well, we got Matthew Hyland's going to be talking a little bit about that in a little bit, but we got to pay attention to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, to Cardano, to XRP, to Avalanche, to BitTensor Tau, to Injective, to a lot of the coins that we've been talking about here. Ondo. We're seeing a lot of movement across the board. This is on the day. If we look at the week, look, everything is green. It's feeling so good. I mean, look at this green wall. But on the 1 hour chart, we're seeing a bit of pullbacks kind of intermixed throughout the market. So let's talk about it because we've got some major things. We just saw Michael Saylor, the strategy, MicroStrategy, not known as Strategy. They have 568,000 Bitcoin now. They did a $1.34 billion purchase, just nonstop buys. This is a way to go about it. They're not looking at tops, bottoms, middles, fibs, all this nonsense. They're looking at, how do I stack for the future? And we're going to continue to buy every week. And we've seen them persistently do this anywhere from the low 100 millions. I know, low, right? All the way up into the, billion and above dollar purchases, but nonstop buying pressure coming in. And remember, they just announced that they they doubled their planned buys from 42 billion to 84 billion. And beyond strategy as we know it now, this is what we're seeing here. We're seeing a number of other institutions and corporations globally race to set up their Bitcoin strategy plan, their action plan here. We're seeing, companies in Europe. We're seeing things going on over in the UAE, United Arab Emirates. We're seeing a number of public companies here in the US and Japan come up and absolutely rally into what can I do to stack more and more Bitcoin, anywhere from the 10 to 20,000 Bitcoin, all the way up to 200,000 plus buying plans coming in. So we need to make sure that we're not getting sidetracked by these 10-minute, 1 hour, 4 hour, 1 day charts, because the persistence of buying and the pressure coming in is only increasing from here. So let's get excited about that. And beyond that, breaking, global debt soared $7.5 trillion in Q1 in a 3-month period. The global debt rise $7.5 trillion. And if this is not an absolute mega buy signal for Bitcoin, I don't know what you are thinking. I actually just did a post about this. Some people still wondering if Bitcoin is a good investment. Meanwhile, we have money printing, which is guaranteed. The global liquidity has only been on the rise. Adoption currently is outpacing the rate of internet adoption. We're going to have about a 10x in users on Bitcoin by 2030. And that's not even considering what we're seeing on the corporate Bitcoin stacking that has just been racing to get as much Bitcoin as possible, which is only going to increase. In fact, we also have world governments discussing Bitcoin reserves daily. Beyond that, again, corps racing to stack Bitcoin, and Bitcoin price probably roughly 10x undervalued right now. So we have to make sure that we are staying on the right side of this, because we have some incredible things coming to this market. And it's not just going to be Bitcoin, it's going to be altcoins as well. But I think a lot of people are getting sidetracked by a particular altcoin they're married to, or if this is moving or if that's moving. We got to make sure that we do not jump between moving horses too much, only to miss the moves on the coins that we are holding. Now, beyond that, here's that global M2 money supply. This is an update on it. And what does this look like? The Bitcoin price is in blue. The green is the global money supply. And look, this does rise incredibly, and this is perfectly on track. Bitcoin is tracking this absolutely perfectly. But what do you notice here? You see a little bit of a reduction here, which would be much like we saw this basically consolidation before the next leg up on global money. We saw Bitcoin do the same thing. Now it's kind of risen into a zone where we also saw the global money have a little bit of a retrace before a mega launch. This would represent the price action coming back down to $100,000 or just below it, down into the 98,000 or 97,000. We're going to be looking at the charts here in a little bit, but just note, we are on this stair-stepping pattern to the upside, even with global liquidity, but this is persisting to the upside. The trend is your friend, and the trend that we're really following right now is the fuel for the fire for these bulls to just rip higher and higher. So we need to be looking for buying opportunities here, because we have the formula laid out that has been tracking Bitcoin's price, forecasting it perfectly. So let's not get frustrated with dips here. Let's make sure that we can stack into these dips so that we can profit in the rips, because this is what is laid out in front of us. All we have to do is pay attention. My question to you, though, is how many people are tuned in right now? How many people are locked into what their strategy is? How many people are not frustrated by any small, short time period bear market dips? It's not a bear market. When you're seeing bullish trends, only retesting previous range highs, only having the buyers coming in and stacking into these levels, whales stacking at unprecedented levels over the last 6 months, governments on the horizon, in fact, already acting on stacking Bitcoin, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, corporations, global M2 moving up. What reason would you have to be, oh, we might be topping here? Let's make sure that we stay locked in. Crimson, how you doing? I'm live. I'm here. I smashed the like button. I'm hoping for the best. I'm right there with you, my friend. Big love to you. Now, for those of you that are tuned in, again, shout out to those that are tuned in over on Rumble. Big love to all you folks that tune in there. This is a new account. We started this about 3 weeks ago. We got about 100 followers. Not that many, right? But that's all good. We're getting, we are featured content on Rumble. We got a partnership with them. So we're getting anywhere from 20 to 50,000 views a day on the content we're doing over there. If you are tuned in there, just do me a favor, hit that follow button, show some love, hit the like button, get active in the live chat, because I can see all the things you guys are saying. So make sure you are getting active there. Similarly, if you're watching over here on Twitter, hit this retweet button, hit this like button. If you're watching anywhere, head over to my Twitter over here at Kelly Kellam or at Academy BitLab. And if tomorrow when we go live, if this is over 40 retweets, we will do a $100 giveaway. So let's everybody get active there, show some love. We got almost 1,000 people tuned in on X right now. So big love to everybody that is tuned in. Now let's continue on. I want to get through some things before we got Matthew Hyland and Kevin Svensson coming on. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling grateful. This market, the green, I got my green shirt on. Let's get this underway. What else we got to look at today? Because we got the global into just, golly, it is just ringing our bell. It is just knocking the bears completely out of the running. So what else is there that we can look to? Well, we got the trade deal. The question is it really a trade deal? President Donald J. Trump secures historic trade win for the United States, securing another historic deal today on the heels of the brand new deal with the United Kingdom. President Trump reached an agreement with China to reduce China's tariffs and eliminate retaliation, retain a U.S. baseline tariff on China, and set a path for future discussions to open market access for American exports. Furthermore, we also see this from Discover Crypto. This would essentially be both countries will cut tariffs by 115% for 90 days. Why do we keep getting these 90-day pauses? The question I have here, and if we listen to this, we're not going to listen to the whole thing, but if we listen to this, I just want you to hear his tone. It sounds like he's being held hostage.
Reached an agreement on a 90-day pause and substantially moved down the tariff levels, both sides on the reciprocal tariffs.
Now, there is a great point somebody made to me in another chat thread with some other content creators, was that he's also speaking slowly, potentially, because he's got the entire world is locked into what we are doing here in the U.S. government with the U.S. trade deal with China, because this could have major impact on global markets, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's NVIDIA, whether it's name the stock, it doesn't matter. Name the crypto, it doesn't matter, because this is having a major impact on the forward-looking outlook about the risk on or risk off narrative, i.e., do I invest in assets or do I park my money in bonds or in cash deposits or in savings, move into cash? This is why, one, he could be talking so slow. Plus, there's probably an enormous number of interpreters that are listening through, and they're trying to make sure on every word that there's not something misrepresented. So that is a great take from Crypto Taco, who suggested that in one of those conversations. So all eyes are on this. All eyes are on this, because if this is substantiated, we also see positive movement in terms of the press releases and the talking points from the Chinese about this maybe being the real thing. So we're seeing positive movement there. So this would be wonderful for markets if this does hold true and they actually finalize a trade deal. Because remember, they still have to finalize all the talking points that they've had. So nothing's locked in yet. Beyond that, we got the face. An unfortunate escalation happened with China. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, and I only shared this because we're seeing super positive news that markets are just ripping from. And then 35 minutes later, an hour later, sometimes 12 hours later, we get a completely contradictory or questionable talking point from somebody, whether it be in China or somebody here in our U.S. government. So while we're getting very great news, we're also getting this undercutting news that follows almost immediately each time. So the markets, when you look at Bitcoin, yes, it moved up. But now if we zoom in on this, let's look at this. Let's go over to the 1 hour chart. We get the move up, but then we're getting the move down. But then the markets are still waiting for like the pen on the paper, the signature, the ink to dry, because people are tired of getting caught off sides. So I do think it does warrant a little bit of just not hesitation, but caution with your moves, and especially how you're investing or how you're trading and what your expectation is. Because right now, it doesn't matter what your technical analysis lines are on the chart. Sometimes right now it just boils down to what was Trump's most recent tweet. What did the White House just post? What was the follow-up from the Chinese delegation regarding what was said by Trump? We're seeing the jockeying of mass media and social media as it also responds or corresponds to what people are seeing react in the charts. So there is some hesitation here, but when we get back over to Bitcoin and we remember that global debt just rise by $7.5 trillion in the last 3 months, January, February, March, this just substantiates who cares what's happening in these short time frames with these little blips on the chart, which we're not even going to remember in 3 years because the price is going to be in the multi-$100,000 level for each Bitcoin and altcoins. Not all, but altcoins are going to have ripped. Some of them are going to crash. Some of them are going to die. But Bitcoin is that. I mean, this is the narrative of the future. Now, when we continue on, we also see the SEC today has a crypto task force roundtable. Is this today? I believe it is. Yeah. The SEC Crypto Task Force Roundtable will discuss tokenization at 1 p.m. today, just only here in a few minutes, with panelists from BlackRock, Fidelity, and NASDAQ. This is major when you consider Ondo, tokenization of assets. When you consider Injective, which I highlighted on a video over on the Discover Crypto channel last week while I was filling in for DZ. But, actually, if we come over here and look at Injective, guys, I mean, Injective has ripped since I made that call. And I also was talking about it here on BitLab Academy. But we were talking about Injective when it was about 960, right? Right about right here. This is the zone in which we were talking about Injective setting up this large reversal. And from that point, let's go to 960, boom, right there, 962. This pumped about 48% on spot, not leverage, from that call that we made. And so the chart was indicating it. The reversal pattern here, the rounding bottom, the inverse head and shoulders, the breakout of this channel setup. And we got that. Where did price go? Came right up into where all this chop was from before. But we're going to look at a lot more charts here in just a little bit. But let me know, all of you that are tuned in, what have you been stacking into? Are you only in Bitcoin? Have you been Bitcoin and some ETH? Are you Bitcoin, ETH, and Cardano? Are you Bitcoin, ETH, and Avalanche? Are you Injective? Are you all memes, full degen mode? Are you been stacking into BitTensor like I have, which I've been making those calls for all of you that have been tuned in? And BitTensor has been absolutely ripping since we made that call at $232. But we're going to look at a lot more charts here in just a moment when our boys Matthew Hyland and Kevin Svensson pop in here. But we got a couple more things to look at. One of those things, namely, as bullish as I am, is this on-chain data metric right here. Bitcoin supply mapping shows sustained strength in new demand, which is good, but that may be a little retail, but new demand is showing strong strength. First-time buyers, RSI held at 100 all week. That means it might be getting into that little bit overheated zone. If new first-time buyers, if it's getting a little overheated, we might see a little bit of volatility in the near term to shake a little bit of those weak hands. But momentum buyers remain weak, so that's not good. We're seeing a little bit of, this does not mean market cycle top. This does not mean crash. This means when we look at the chart. So this is a 1 hour chart. Let's actually go to another chart here. Let's go to this one right here. Currently, what do we see here? Massive momentum move to the upside. Much smaller momentum move to the upside. Much smaller, almost like it's leaning over, right? If we draw this out, this is very steep, right? The next one, not so steep. The next one, not steep at all, and much lower high. If you count the wick, then still the momentum's weakening. And then we have a lower low. All these are low, higher, low, higher, low, higher, low, higher, low, barely higher low, lower low, right in this zone. If this pushes up and we get rejected, this is going to signal that we just on a price basis that we will very likely move down. And I would do that somewhere right about in this zone, right in here that I'd be looking for. $98,000 to $97,000. And this is what I just highlighted only a couple of minutes ago. This would not be the end of the bull run. In fact, this would just be a test of previous range highs, much like we saw when the price action here went from 109 to 74. This was not something super scary when you zoom out and you look at the fact that all this did was retest a previous range high. Similarly, it happens on the small time frames. 1 hour chart, where's the previous range high? Right back down here at about $98,000. Now, will it go all the way down there? I don't know. We have to take this level by level. And if you take some smaller time frame sort of levels, you can look at these small little sort of hiccups here, the little push up, rejection, bull flags, both. So if this does come down and bounce here, that would be completely fine as well. But we want to remain adaptable and not just if you're trying to find a dip, you don't just put 100% of it down here at the bottom side of this range at 97. It may or may not get that. In fact, Even if it does, it doesn't mean it has to hold. This very well could come down and test all the way back down here to 92. Now, why would that be? Because when we come over here and we look at the liquidation heat map, we've got plenty of liquidity below us, not that much above us. Currently, right now, I would like to see this come down and flush out all the way through the 102, 101s, maybe even a little deeper. But look at all this liquidity here. Now, I am hyper bullish right now. I don't think we're going to scoop up all this liquidity. In fact, some people will look at this and they will completely screw over what their opportunity is going to be in the rest of this bull run because they see all this or go, I'm selling here and I'm going to buy back in when it gets to 93. I don't know how likely that is. Now, while we have all this liquidity below us, we also have an unprecedented amount of buying pressure coming in that is something that we could not have even fathomed 7 months ago. World governments around the world globally talking about, in an ever increasing manner, talking about Bitcoin strategic reserves, talking about what's going on with the legality and how they can integrate with Bitcoin and crypto, stablecoin legislation here in the US, banks figuring out how they can get involved with offering Bitcoin and crypto services, ETFs breaking to new all-time highs in terms of the demand of people, of buyers out there. What we're seeing with corporations stacking in ways that we could not have even fathomed 6 months ago. The buying pressure coming in does not mean it is up, 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 up only. For me, it means we have an incredible strength to this bullish trend, but you cannot ignore that along the way, we're going to have some dips and they are needed. They're healthy. They will clear out some of the sort of the malaligned people that are just hyper bullish and just going leverage. We're going to see leverage cleared in both directions regularly on this way to the upside. Now, beyond that, we can see that highlighted with this chart right here. Decent little long squeeze, nearly 5K Bitcoin in open interest wiped out. That's not $5,000. 5,000 Bitcoin wiped out in open interest, meaning people that were leveraged long, going hyper bullish here. And it's a healthy thing to see. Beyond that, we see this from tech dev. I mean, you'd be bearish here. And this, I mean, look at this. This is the inflection point when this rolled over. Look at where this was in the previous cycles. This was a setup for the super parabolic launch season. Same thing here. When this went flat and started getting, basically rolling back towards that zero line, this was a setup before the giga launch to the upside. This is looking like we might be at that zone right now. Beyond that, we also see, we'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a second. But if this is your first time here, welcome to the family. BitLab Academy. We're here to bring you data-based metrics on what's happening in this market, trading setups, how to read charts, how to use indicators, how to have discourse with other people in this space. And I do want to thank our channel partners, BitcoinIRA.com. Make sure you, if you have a 401k, you want to get active in your IRA, your retirement account, with investing and trading Bitcoin on a tax-deferred basis, head over to BitcoinIRA.com. Of course, LBank, our trading partner. We have the link pinned in the top of the live comments there on YouTube, also on Rumble, and you can also find it in the description down below. And then, of course, Arculus, getarculus.com. Use code BitLab20, BitLab20 for 20% off. Protect your crypto, protect your future. Now, with that being said, thank you to the channel partners. Now we got my homeboy partners here in the mix. Let me go ahead and get them set up here. I want to know each and every one of you, what price point and what month do you think, even if we get a stair step all the way through 2026, where do you think the top of Bitcoin is going to be this year, and what month that's going to be? Even if we have a pullback that continues into a super cycle, whatever it is, what month and what price point do you think Bitcoin is going to be this year for its 2025 top? Also, Ethereum, let me know what you think that's going to be as well. So I got you, Matthew, set up as guest 2, guest 1. I just set all these, guest 4 and guest 5. There's so much technical stuff that you do when you're doing all these live streams. Again, shout out to YouTube, everybody out there watching. Shout out to X, everybody watching there. Everybody, make sure you're out there retweeting this, sharing the space. If we get up to 40 retweets, we will do a giveaway tomorrow, and that is right here. It's on my page at Kelly Kellam. Hit that retweet, hit that like button, show some love. We will do a giveaway tomorrow if this reaches 40. With that, we got our boys. We got Kevin Svitson, Matthew Highland Kevin, where the hell have you been, man? We missed you.
I get Monday amnesia and I forget sometimes. I come out of the weekend and then I'll be in my Discord and it'll go past this time and I just forget. No, I don't really have a great excuse, but it happens.
But hey, you know, I got to give you some props. The chart you did, and we talked about it on one of the Mario and Off-All spaces the other day. You and Drew was highlighting it as well. You nailed the call on the ETH the Bitcoin chart, calling the bottom. You know, you did a chart about it. Even said I'd call in the bottom here. So shout out to you on that chart, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can see the screen here. But if you look at Ethereum, wrong chart. Ethereum to Bitcoin pair, and you just look at the trajectory it was on. It was a pretty simple analysis. I was just looking at the inverse parabola, because if you draw a parabolic trend line and line up these lower highs right here for Ethereum, it was on pace to go to zero, right? So you look at this, the trajectory was pretty much straight down, inverse parabola. And if it had followed this trajectory, it would have had to go to zero within 2 months, right? If it followed this, it was basically 2 months and it was at zero. And so I was just like, well, it's not going to zero, right? It's not going to go to zero. And it's going to be very likely at this point that we're going to be breaking out of this trajectory. And it seemed like at that time, Ethereum had started to pivot a little bit, and the Ethereum Bitcoin pair was coming back to this low from October of 2019, and it was pushing up towards the inverse parabola. And I kind of just took a guess. I was like, well, if it was going to reverse, it would have to be here. It's not going to zero in 2 months. So it was almost just like a screaming buy in a way. It was like a screaming buy, right? Just simply the theory was it's not going to zero. So that's it, right?
Well, right on. Well, you know, Mr. Matt, we're gonna, just so everybody knows, if you are new here, we welcome to the BitLab family. We got Matthew Highland here, who is an absolute OG analyst, trader. He's got a massive community on Twitter and his own Patreon. Kevin Svensson, also OG. He's one of the first YouTubers I ever watched within the crypto ecosystem back in 2017. These guys are absolute legends. As always, we have them here on Mondays, and we run around at the conferences together and such. So Matthew Highland, ETH's breaking out, and you messaged me. You said, hey, man, meme coin super cycle. Do you really think it's a meme coin super cycle?
Well, I think the meme coins are definitely the ones that are going to outperform. I started covering the memes a lot more about a month ago. I always liked dog, but I kind of have felt like that the memes like for retail are just a thing, and like all my retail friends usually go to them first. So I think we're seeing that now. The memes, since the lows, they obviously sold off a lot more, but if you were able to pivot into the memes at that point, a lot of them are up like 3-4x now. We were able to ride a lot of them up in my my Patreon/Discord. But I think the bigger thing, if you go back to my screen, and this has to do with Ethereum, and we've been discussing this. I've been discussing it with Kevin for like the past 2 months. We brought it up on here as well, and no one's paying attention to this. And this is literally the biggest catalyst in crypto history, like literally the biggest catalyst. And people might not like that or might disagree with it. This is much larger than just Bitcoin. This is the tokenization of the entire financial system, the entire financial system. So if Bitcoin is gold, which a lot of people compare to gold, this would be like gold to the stock market or gold to the bond market. The stock and bond market is way, way larger than gold, right? And this is not going to happen on Bitcoin, which I know it's going to hurt people's feelings, right? But I think it will help Bitcoin in the end anyway. This is the biggest catalyst, and it will probably be on Ethereum. It will probably also be on other chains as well. I think probably Solana, layer twos as well. But this is essentially the tokenization of the whole stock market, the whole bond market, just in the United States alone. And then if we get into other countries, China, the rest of the world, we're talking, I mean, insane numbers. So if this were to ever happen, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen tomorrow. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and everything's going to be tokenized. It'll probably take 5-10 years, right? But if it were to ever happen, you're talking about at least $100 trillion plus being moved on chain, which would give, I mean, Ethereum, if you asked like ChatGPT and asked it what the estimate price would be, it's somewhere around like $50,000 per Ethereum, which people will probably laugh at. But I think Ethereum, right? Ethereum started to pop last week. It was around the same time we got this news that they're going to be meeting with the SEC. So this is going to be BlackRock, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton, Robinhood as well. Like all the big players are moving in to tokenize the stock market. This is the biggest. You'll never have a bigger catalyst for crypto. This is the biggest catalyst by far that we will ever see for crypto, because this is it. Like this is the whole financial system being moved potentially one day on chain. And this is just a start. This is just a meeting. It's going to happen today, I believe, in an hour or so. But
I
this
think
is
it
probably why
happens. I think it starts in about 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what the funny thing is too, I said this to Kevin earlier as well, the Bitcoin ETF will get tokenized on Ethereum or whichever chain, right? So even Bitcoin will end up living on the Bitcoin ETF will get tokenized as well. If we're going to tokenize ETFs and stocks and everything, those are all going to get tokenized. So who's going to be the biggest winner out of this? Ethereum. Like, but it's really like strange to me that no one's paying attention. I know you guys have covered the RWA stuff at Hit Network. I know you guys I've seen the other guys on Hit Network cover Ondo, etc. You guys have been covering it, but like if you go on X, like no one's talking about this at all. Like literally no one's talking about this.
Dude, did
We've
you
been talking about it for
realize?
the past-
I only realized this last week when I was doing a video, because I was already interested in Injective, but I was doing a video that we released on Discover Crypto. I think it was Tuesday last week. How I was making moves. I had made some moves into BitTensor, but the next coin I was really looking at making a buy on was Injective. And Injective, I think, was 955, 960 at that point. And when I was doing the research, I didn't even realize that kind of silently under the radar, wasn't on my radar. They added the ability to trade Apple stock in Netflix, Amazon, Meta, all on Injective DEX. So I was like,
Yep.
wow, I don't want to say it's a competitor with Ondo because they're two slightly different protocols, but we're seeing it in real time. Ondo's already making strides with U.S. Treasuries and trying to bring on, I think, the top 1,000 stocks. But then now we see Injective already having some stocks being traded on. I think Avalanche is going to be within that narrative as well.
And this should like excite people. Like, I don't know. I've been in crypto since 2017, and we've had different things. We had like DeFi last cycle, but like to date, what has really been built on crypto? Stable coins. Like that's been like probably the most useful thing. But I think this is a big deal. Probably the biggest thing you could actually possibly imagine. So this like actually excites me again that this might be, starting to transition. This should excite people. And yeah, you guys did a good job covering it. But I just don't see it anywhere. Like I go on X and no one's talking about it. Like literally no one's talking about it. People are saying, well, the staking will, be the catalyst, and which will help, I think, on the ETF side. But this is like 100 times larger. This is like the biggest thing you could possibly imagine. This is like making crypto, I don't know how to explain it, official. It's going to be a new.
It's taking it from its little bubble that it lives in, and and now crypto is expanding out of this bubble into the real world, like for real.
Well, I think about it this way. I think, and I know this from looking into Chainlink. Chainlink it should be integrated into DTCC. Now, what is that random acronym? It's basically the entity that handles all of the transactions and settlement on the stock market. And that number is, I think, around $3 quadrillion a year. And this is for U.S. markets, right? That's $3 quadrillion a year for basically stock and securities treasury settlements through DTCC. Now, when you think about the broader market, and if we're tokenizing even a subset of that, the large majority of all transactions that happen are those top 10 stocks on the market. The Mag 7, as they call them, is a large majority of the money movement on the stock market. So if we're tokenizing just those coins, whether it's the settlement from Chainlink on DTCC or they're actually utilized on some sort of smart contract, layer like a combination of Ethereum, maybe Solana, maybe Avalanche, maybe Cardano, whatever it is, that is a massive amount of liquidity that's going to be settled on those underlying rails. So whether even Solana, for instance, I know some people that do not like at all meme coins, but they invest in Solana because it's essentially the rail system for the majority of all meme transactions in crypto right now, because there's so many memes done on Solana. So you're getting this sort of abstracted exposure to the broader meme transaction volume and liquidity by investing in the rail that all those are on. Same thing's going to happen with stocks. If stocks are tokenized, what rails are they going to be on? Blockchains. Well, which blockchains? Well, Ethereum right now is a large dominant. It's the largest dominant chain in the altcoin ecosystem for DeFi and for liquidity. And then beyond that, okay, it's not the shiny new thing. Well, what happens when the dull old thing that is a behemoth of liquidity, if that's tokenized via Ethereum? I think it's so silly that people thought ETH was dead.
I
I think
agree too.
sorry.
No,
I was
you
just going to
can
say,
go.
I think that like Ethereum and Avalanche suffered this cycle so far for not having enough memes, enough popular memes.
Yeah.
That was actually a big, like, especially early on. That's one of the big factors. I mean, that was pretty much the only narrative for a while. So
Yeah.
What were we gonna say, Matt?
I think it will be like multi-chain. I think Ethereum will be like almost a security layer because you want to have it on the most secure L1. But I think we could see, like, we saw different companies listed there, like Fidelity, Nasdaq, Robinhood. There was like a dozen or so, but they might use different chains. So one might be like, you know what, we want to put our stuff on Cardano. We want to put our the stocks on our platform on Cardano or something like that, or on Solana or on whatever. So I think a lot of these chains will end up benefiting from it. I loaded up on ChatGPT. If you share my screen, I just asked it, what are the benefits of tokenizing stocks on blockchains? There's a bunch of reasons. Like, a lot of people don't understand, or they just think simply like, oh, what's the point of tokenizing stocks? Like, we already have like the apps and stuff. But there's a lot of financial reasons, speed, etc., security. If you just go through them, increase liquidity because they can be traded 24/7. The Nasdaq already said that they plan on making the stock market 24/7 by next year, and now we're seeing them meet with the SEC to tokenize. I mean, flags should be going off, alarm bells should be going off for a lot of people right now. They're going to do it through tokenizing everything. Fractional ownership, you can buy smaller portions. And Kevin brought this up earlier when we were talking. You'll be able to, like, let's say like a real estate building, for example, you'll be able to invest in like a fraction of something like that if real estate gets tokenized as well. So anything that gets tokenized, you'll literally be able to just buy a fraction of it. You can't do that currently. If you want to own a house, right, you have to, it's like one owner, right, unless you're buying like a stock that owns a bunch, etc. But you'll probably be able to in the future buy a part of something like that, fractionized partial part of anything, really anything at all. It could be anything, a car, a watch, anything. Faster settlement, so it's way faster, lower costs. I asked it like a month or so ago, and it's like some extreme number, like $100 billion they would save each year by tokenizing everything, just because the settlement layers, when you settle stocks, it literally has to go through all these intermediaries. There's fees, there's this and that, money moving around. Through this, it's way cheaper. It would save a lot of money, enhance transparency, global access. Anyone in the world could then access it. Improve security, real-time updates, accessibility. There's so many benefits. So in my opinion, superior technology wins out in the end. We're seeing that with Bitcoin's superior technology than gold. I think it will win out in the end. And I think with this, blockchain is superior technology to the current financial structure that's been kind of in place for a while. A lot of people say it's pretty much almost outdated. It's basically like the same system, 9 to 5 or 9:30 to 4, the stock market's open. It's been like that for almost a century, I believe. But it's a different time now. It can be run 24/7. Robinhood, I believe, already does that, but the Nasdaq wants to do it as well. So this is how they're going to do it.
So on that note, we're talking pretty broadly here. Again, I just want to say again, thank everybody that is tuned in. I see we got some new people in the house. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe. Make sure you're following Kevin Svensson and Matthew Highland as well, at Matthew Highland _ and at Kevin Svensson _. But I'd love to get back into some crypto charts. Let's look at the markets. Throw it over to you first, Kevin. What are you seeing on Bitcoin right now? And then we can get into some alts as well here in a bit.
Yeah, so Bitcoin has been on an interesting continuation pattern. This is something that I've talked about in my videos. We discussed this. We had this move up, an impulse up, followed by sideways consolidation. And if you just measure the steepest part of your flagpole, and then you just place that on the breakout zone, you get your measured move right up to basically where Bitcoin found its high. And if you take the next measured move, right, the steepest part of this flagpole, and this was the recent call I made, and I just placed it on the breakout zone, we had a move right up to 104,000 that matched the flagpole. So very strong continuation here. Like the Bitcoin's not giving up any of these gains. Like the first impulse up, it establishes a low pretty much like pretty early there. And we don't go anywhere lower than that. We just go sideways. Another impulse up, we establish a low. We don't go any lower than that. In fact, we get higher lows. And we impulse up, and now we've had this low. We sort of got an equal low recently. If we were going to maintain similar characteristics, Bitcoin would basically just hold this low that we found today, and it would attempt to find a further consolidation. And then you could, in theory, take this flagpole and place it on wherever the breakout zone would be, and it actually lands you upwards of potentially roughly something like 114,000. Which sounds pretty crazy, right? That's a new all-time high. But when I did this initial extrapolation and I said 104,000, we were sitting at 95 when I made that video. Of course, people thought it was just crazy. And then all of a sudden, Bitcoin just does it. All of a sudden, we're just there. And so it may be something similar. We could get, if we maybe hold a downtrend line like this, that previous downtrend line, and we have a breakout from there. Maybe as we consolidate here, we break out. If we were to continue this and we hold this low, maintain the same characteristics, 114,000 is the next measured move of this continuation pattern, which, might sound crazy, but there's a lot of power in this trend. We're not giving up any of these gains, not yet at least. And very importantly, the S&P 500 is just on fire, especially today. Now with the news, Trump China tariff deal, I mean, we're just gapping up. We're just continuing up here. And so I'm not sure if you you flipped to my Twitter screen, that's all there. But yeah, this is looking really good. I mean, this recovery, as Matt pointed out, is faster than the COVID recovery, right? Because after COVID for the S&P, we closed a month down. We had this open. We actually had a monthly close below the March open, right? And so it took a while to get back up to these higher levels. But I think right now what we see is the largest wick, I think, in S&P history this previous month, right? The April monthly wick, largest wick, I believe, ever. So that wick, I mean, if you compare it to COVID, it is much faster, much more rapid. And so this is coming without.
I've got a question for you though. This is a post I wanted to highlight today. This is from Amit is Investing, and this is interesting. It says on April 3rd, Goldman Sachs data showed that hedge funds sold the most amount of stocks in a single day since 2010. On the same day, retail inflows were 4.7 billion, the greatest single day inflows from retail investors into the stock market in over 10 years. If the hedge funds continued to stay on the sidelines for the majority of the rebound in April, and if they didn't get in before this China preliminary deal was reached, then they will not be able to stomach the rally we are seeing right now. Either they will increase short exposure and completely go against this rally. If not, they will begrudgingly buy higher prices only to continue to pump more capital into the current momentum. Basically highlighting, when we're looking at this market, it's kind of like it's underscored by extreme bullishness, but questionable data of the big players kind of sidelined, but also other money is stacking in big. And it's how do you contend with that?
I personally, I mean, I'm not. I'd have to like look more into it, but there's no way if he's trying to imply that retail pushed the stock market back up.
There's no
No
way.
possible way. No, it's institutions. Anyone who's trying to say that retail pushed the stock market back up trillions and trillions of dollars, no, I can't. I wouldn't even
Yeah,
like be able
that's a
to.
good point. That's a great point.
No,
Like it's not retail that pushed it back up, but retail. It was a very strange moment because I think retail sentiment was at like one of its worst moments ever. Like it was most bearish I think ever at the bottom, and then there was a quick change. I think probably because Trump gave everyone an insider trading tip, and then retail probably saw that and was like, "Wait a minute," and then
Well,
the bias flipped pretty quickly. But
well, to your point, Matthew, and also Kevin, this following that up, the Kobesi letter actually highlighted that. You know, how could retail have done that if we actually have? I mean, this is basically highlighting the savings the U.S. has had since 2021 to where we're at now. There's essentially no real money on the sidelines that retail could have deployed to push that. And wait, like today, we saw a $2 trillion jump in the stock prices, not crypto. $2 trillion jump in the market in basically the opening minutes of the opening bell. So there's bigger things at play out here than just, oh, retail's in and the hedge funds aren't. Well, hedge funds aren't the whole story, one. And two, there's major money out there that I do think is rotating in ways that we can't really contend with.
I think
retail.
it's more of a mixed. It's actually probably more mixed. I don't know if that data is totally true. Like again, we had record retail bearishness at the bottom that then quickly turned into retail buying the dip. And then you had, you said hedge funds reducing exposure, but how the hell could you get this type of a rebound without Wall Street's involvement or whatever? So
There's no way.
I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's really clear or clean cut, but
what I see you got some charts here pulled up. Let's see what you
Bitcoin.
got, Matthew.
Well, I think it was retail that was given up at the bottom. That's why we saw the search term market crash, like surge and whatnot. Yeah, retail capitulated the bottom again. Maybe some hedge funds did too, but it definitely was institutions, et cetera, that pushed the stock market up 10% in a day. There's absolutely no chance that retail did that. That's all institution driven. If you go to Bitcoin, I think like what Kevin said, this looks healthy to me. You look at the daily RSI. If we get like a pullback to 100K, this will certainly make a lower low on the RSI while the price well above this. So we'll get some sort of daily bullish divergence. If we did get a pullback, it doesn't even have to happen. If you look at the 4-hour RSI, it's currently below where we were when Bitcoin was around $96,000. So this is some sort of divergence here. I think Bitcoin's consolidating and wants to move up and continue higher. And then the stock market, if you go to the S&P 500, let me remove a lot of this, or let me just go to the futures actually.
Yeah, to your credit, Matthew, you shared this chart specifically with the lines you had drawn on there. What was it, last week, about this potential rejection, small bounce, which could set up a much higher move. So, yeah.
Yeah, all eyes are on this level right here. Actually, I'll just go back to the S&P 500 just to make it accurate. This is around. Oh, you switched.
No, keep going. I was just showing people your page.
It's around 5,800 for the S&P 500. It's currently trading above it. It gapped up, so it opened up, and now it's back in the green today on the weekly. It was red before. I'm not sure why, because it gapped up, it opened, then went down a little bit, but it was still up since last weekend or last Friday. Regardless, it's above this major resistance. If it closes a weekly above this, then any narrative of there being a bear market, et cetera, just dies. This is really like the bear's last chance. If there are sellers, if people believe that we are going into a bear market, like many people believed just a few weeks ago, this is a great area to exit, right? This is where you'd want to exit. But we're not seeing it currently, right? We'll end up seeing what ends up happening during the week, but sellers are not selling here currently. So I think that's a good sign, right? And I'm bullish, obviously. Like I'm bullish. I thought this whole pump or dump was just another 2020 style sell-off. It's recovering like that once again. But if the Bears, this is like the Bears are in trouble right now. That's pretty much it. I mean, the sellers didn't step in here. Now it's trading above this resistance. If the sellers don't step in this week and get the price back down, then the bear narrative is just dead, and this is just going to push back up to the all-time highs once again, and then we'll see where it does after that. But yeah, it looks like, I mean, it's a Monday. We still have a lot of time left. The weekly candle just opened, but bears are definitely currently in trouble right now.
All right, so now let's get into the fun portion of the show. I know that we talked about Bitcoin, we talked about ETH a bit. Altcoins, man, we're seeing the dominance. Showing some interesting signs, but it's not out of the woods yet. If we come back over to my screen real quick, I'd love to you guys get some alt, maybe 2 alts each that you're looking at, and we've got to look at Dog, because Dog has been absolutely doing so. We can look at that also. So 2 alts each, yeah. And then we'll also do Dog in addition to that. But Bitcoin dominance coming down right into this previous range high. Also, this interesting support line that also had a major deviation below. Find support again. Massive move back up here into the 65 percentile. Now this has come down, and this is what I'm really looking at. This is exciting, but if we actually lose this zone, both horizontal and rising level of support on dominance, this will be when it, in my opinion, when it starts to get really exciting for altcoins, because we're seeing some major moves out there. BitTensor making massive moves up from my call back here at 230. We see Injective also. Where is Injective? Injective just rallying out, just leaving people behind here from that call that we made here at 960 all the way up here to 1425, now sitting at 1338. Near Protocol also make a move. Avalanche make a moves. We're seeing Stacks make a moves. We're seeing a lot of reversals on the charts. So let's throw it back over to you first, Matthew. And before I do that, so I don't interrupt your train of thought, if you want to follow Matthew, you can follow him here at Matthew Highland _. And of course, if you want to follow Kevin, and I think you all should follow both of these fine gentlemen, Kevin Svensson at Kevin Svensson _. Now coming back over to you, Matthew, what are you looking at?
All right, we'll start off with Dog, and this is Dog against BTC. And a lot of alt pairs currently look like this, especially the memes, where they're breaking back above major resistance levels. If you look at this on the weekly time frame, closed above against this major resistance level against BTC. And usually when a coin starts breaking out against BTC, you usually start to see the USD pair start to fly. So this one has broken back above. You look at the Dog USD chart, popping upward, but I think it has a lot more momentum coming, probably just based on the breakout against BTC. Let me go back. Oops. So it has a lot of upside, and so if it goes up against BTC while BTC is also moving up, then this would go up a lot. And the other thing to cover, really, and then I'll toss it to Kevin, is the Bitcoin dominance chart. For me, the line in the sand is this 60% level. This should be the level that everyone should be watching. If it loses this, that would be the first lower low of this entire structure. If you kind of just like mark this up, let me see if I can find this. I'm like so bad at navigating TradingView.
Well, you can hop into BitLab Academy where I've done videos on how to.
This guy. Maybe I should actually, because I usually like struggle with some of these things, finding the things. But if you look at this uptrend, it's just been higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. If it breaks below this 60% level, that would be the first lower low since this uptrend started. So all eyes are on 60% for Bitcoin dominance. Most alts are moving up against Bitcoin. There's not really any that aren't at this point. And one of the ones that I think, aside from Ethereum, which I can go to real fast, you look at ETH BTC. This was Kevin's parabolic trend line. I've had this actually on here for a few weeks now. It's testing it right now, so it's testing the resistance there. But the one that we also have to watch is XRP, because XRP is the third largest altcoin. So if XRP is breaking out of this bull flag and starts moving up, along with Ethereum against Bitcoin, then Bitcoin dominance is just going to completely tank. And this looks pretty good for XRP. So even if you don't hold XRP, I don't hold any XRP. I wish I did during this move, but if you hold XRP or if you don't hold XRP, you will benefit, because XRP will drive Bitcoin dominance down. If this breaks out of this kind of bull flag structure, the target would be around almost $10 for XRP. So unless Bitcoin, if XRP were to go up 4x in price, Bitcoin would have to also to negate this. So in all likelihood, I don't think Bitcoin is going to $400,000 sooner than XRP
I
would get to
also don't
10.
think XRP is going to a $700 to $800 billion market cap. But that would be a major move. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's the target though out of this flag. So I mean, it did get up to what, like 300 billion back in 2017 or 2018. So I don't know. We'll end up seeing what ends up happening with this, but that's the target out of this. So if XRP moves up, then Bitcoin dominance would likely come down and break below that 60% level, which if it does, we would have a lower low, and essentially it would mark the end of the uptrend for Bitcoin dominance, which means alts will outperform. It'll be more of a risk on. This will be a huge signal. A lot of alts will really start to move, and a lot of alts have moved. A lot of alts are up like 2, 3, 4x over the past few weeks, and Bitcoin dominance has only dropped 3%. I would think if you measure this, I think it would come down to around like 44-ish, I would somewhere in this area. If you use the fib targets, I believe, hold up. I forgot how I measured this last time. I think I took it from the low. No, I honestly don't remember, but it was around 44%. I had a fib target around 44%. That'd be like the area. It also went down to that same fib target last cycle. So 44% is what I would be eyeing. So if a 3% move alone just sent alts, imagine going from 63 to 44. I mean, it'll get silly.
Yeah, it'd be super silly. Now, what are you seeing, Mr. Kev?
No, I was just drawing that measured move for XRP because you said 10. I was like, wait, there's no way.
I was doing on log scale.
Yeah, you do it on linear. It looks more
Yeah.
realistic, like up to 5, maybe the 450 to 618 or something like that. But now I was looking at the total, or sorry, the others chart first of all. This is something that has been, kind of stuck in this range. I'm looking at the money flow profile, which is just another version of the volume profile that gives you actual US dollar amounts. It's kind of a cool visual tool, money flow profile. But the way that this is set up right now, the last run that we had for the others chart, the index for low caps, if you do the same type of thing where you extrapolate the steepest part of the flagpole and then you put it on the breakout zone, it gave you a perfect target hit for that last run in 2024. If you do the steepest part of the flagpole again and you place on the breakout zone, it lines up right with an upward sloping resistance. So I think the next major target for others, low cap alts, is going to be a retest into a slightly higher high and a slightly new all-time high. And after hitting that measured move, we may come back to retest this zone, which is, the point of highest contention between bulls and bears, the volume or the point of control, right around that point on the money flow profile or the yellow bar that you see here. I think we might see a move like that with a retest and then the final punch into the cycle, which is usually the most eventful, the final move. You have like an initial washout where it feels like all is lost. And then the final pump, maybe towards a whole number target of like a trillion, like 1 trillion for others, which is everything outside the top 10. But for the next move, I'm looking for a trend up to roughly like 550 billion for others. And it's going to probably confuse a lot of people if it plays out in this same way where we get a slightly new all-time high. People will say, oh, it's a breakout, it's starting now, is what people are going to think. If we go from where we are to a new all-time high, they're going to expect that now it's starting. But there's a lot of reasons to believe that we could hit this $550 billion target and really just retrace, because especially if there's no major changes from the Fed, nothing substantial, it may be difficult for markets to sustain growth, like an up-only thing that we've seen in past many years. So I think we're going to get a bit of a washout after testing the new all-time high and testing the measured move and testing the upward sloping resistance, and then get the final push later on into the end of the halving cycle profit model, which is the model that I created on TradingView, which works really well for the altcoins as well. It's really a global liquidity model. Each cycle, the 80th week being the area where you get the end of your cycle run. So I think a couple runs left here, into July, August, a pullback, and then a run into the 80th week post halving seems to be the playbook that we get for most of these cycles. And so that's for the alts overall. Alts are usually their strongest into the end of the cycle. So that's how I see it playing out. And when I'm looking at this chart, this is an important chart, the others chart, because there's plenty of altcoins. If you go to like the daily chart, or maybe I'll stay on the weekly, there's plenty of altcoins that look just like this. Maybe the daily is better. You have this on the others, inverse head and shoulders, right? Which is just a reversal signal, reversal pattern, break of the neckline. We have confirmed a bullish reversal in the low cap index. So that's great. The bias is now bullish for the time being until maybe we get towards some of this resistance up here. But if you look at some of the other top alts like Avalanche, it's a very similar setup. It's a different, somewhat different structure. It's more of a double bottom here. But you can see same, neckline break, pushing up. We're about to enter an area of low volume, which we could swing straight through. You go to like Chainlink, similar deal, very similar deal, inverse head and shoulders, break of the neckline, confirmed breakout, confirmed bullish reversal, very likely swings up into the area of lower volume, maybe tests up to the 618, 23 as the first major target on this move. And you go down the list of all the top altcoins, a lot of the top altcoins, and they look very much like this. They're all in a very similar position. So the setup right now across the board is telling me that we have a confirmed bullish reversal, and the bias should be bullish despite the idea of a retest of the breakout, which is totally possible, right? Punish late longs, wash it down to the breakout zone, and then push again, right? That type of price action should not mislead you into thinking that it's bearish, right? That's a bullish retest of the breakout zone. And that is always to be expected. Right now, across the board, we do have, I think, red dailies for most coins. And that could sort of cascade into a further pullback. Maybe Bitcoin retests 100K or slightly below 100, just to confirm 100K is the actual new support, or that the market is actually confident enough in 100K to continue up. Because that's been really, if you look at Bitcoin, that 100K level has been, of course, the zone, or you could say, I guess, the volume profile is showing like 97, but 100K is always the point where we lose it because the market wasn't confident enough to sustain it. And now we've finally gotten above it. Everyone's excited, but I think the market's probably going to want to see a push to make sure that it is confirmed, that the market is confident enough and strong enough to hold it. Because what we don't want to see is the price float too far away from 100 and then we're not strong enough to hold it. Or, you know what I mean? It much better if we retested it soon. And I think the market's probably going to want to do that, which is not a big deal. We're not that far away from it. It's really just below us here. I'm sure there's some fair value gaps below us to test as well. If you go to the daily for Bitcoin, is this the daily? Yeah, there is one right here. Actually, quite a large one that the market might want to retest. We didn't really retest the last one, or at least not into it. So we'll see. I think that would be healthy, though, a retest of 100 before getting some kind of continuation. But yeah, the others chart, in my opinion, is the chart to look at because it mimics really all the other top alts. Avalanche, I'm just looking at what's on my watch list. Chainlink, go down the list. Of course, the lower caps look a lot different, and that's another thing. But it looks like this, other than a pullback to retest the breakout, I am looking for a test of the 618 for most coins. I think this run has really just started, and at least a test of the 618 before settling up. And of course, that's more of a swing trade idea. It's not a cycle idea, but I'm just showing you my more short, medium-term outlook on altcoins.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment as well. I mentioned that earlier in the stream. a slight move to the downside on Bitcoin, whether it's to 100 or down into the 97 or 98K region, would also result more likely than not in a bit of a retest on some of those alts. So some of those alts that you guys feel like have run away and you haven't got in, remember, there tends to be opportunities if you're just patient rather than in buying the top of candles. We're going to have to wrap this one here. I got to run into another stream, but I just want to shout out everybody that is tuned in. I appreciate you, whether you're watching on Rumble, whether you're watching here on YouTube or on X. Make sure that you are following these two fine young gentlemen right here, Mr. Kevin Svensson right here at Kevin Svensson _, and of course, Mr. Matthew Hyland at Matthew Hyland _. And to wrap this out, I just want to highlight something that's very important. Bitcoin is the big dog on the street. I love alts. I've got a number of alts, but Bitcoin is nearly double in market cap than all other crypto combined. This is Bitcoin's market cap, just over $2 trillion. All other crypto coins combined is about 1.1 trillion. And this is why I think it's fun to dance in the altcoin space. Of course, you're trying to capture some of that heightened volatility where it can outpace the growth of Bitcoin, but it's going to be in spurts and you have to know how to rotate. But just remember that Bitcoin right now, should you buy or not? If you're still on the sidelines, well, I still think that it's orders of magnitude more risky not to hold Bitcoin than right now just to wait and see. This has been an absolutely fantastic show, guys. Got Kevin Svensson, Matthew Hyland. Do you guys have any closing thoughts?
Smash the like button.
Smash that like button. And remember,
subscribe.
Kevin and Matthew both do content all day, every day. They both also have their own private communities. Make sure you're following those guys. Matt, give us those positive words of encouragement that you're known for.
I think May will be a good month. I've been saying this for past few weeks. I think May will be a good month. So we have a lot to look forward to in the coming weeks.
Us three here all have been pretty consistent, even in that downtrend where everybody was losing their minds. Was I showing some potential further targets to the downside? Sure. But I also was very, very bold about it. I think I was like April 7th, I called the bottom based on data. And April 19th, I posted stack before May and profits will come your way. I think we're going to have a pretty bullish summer. Do you guys think we're going to have a pretty bullish summer, or is it going to be all sideways?
The weekly RSI breakout on Bitcoin is an average of 12 to 14 weeks up. So I think into July, August, we should be bullish, but then we might see sort of like a mid or end of summer reversal. That's what I think. But yeah, the cycle's a little bit shifted now, so summer might be, usually it's not bullish. I think this time it probably will be, at least going into it.
Right on. Well, I'm excited for it. We're all here. Everybody that's out there tuned in, we appreciate you being here. And I'll be live again tomorrow, but I'll see you both next week. And hey, not too long. Was it 2 weeks from now? We'll be all hanging out together in Vegas. You're coming, right, Kevin?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right.
His dog ate his airplane ticket, so he's not.
Where everybody's stacked like your future depends on it, because I really do believe it does. That's all we got for you today in another episode here on BitLab Academy. We love you. We appreciate you. Everybody get out of the charts a little bit. Make sure you're doing other things as well, because whatever you do now is also going to be how you're doing it in the future. So although this time is important, you got to also remember your family is important, your friends are important, your mental health is important, your diet is important, your health is important. So try to find some balance. That's all I got for you today, everybody. Thank you both again. Always great to have you on these streams. We'll see you all in the next one. Adios, muchachos.
Peace out.
See you guys.